We're rolling. We're trying to roll. We're almost rolling. So the weirdest thing, I still cannot see myself on Facebook. Bizarre. Okay. Don't need that screen. Good thing I can see y'all over here. Okay, guys, we have so much to talk about tonight. I'm really excited that you're here. Hold on one second. You know, all the complicated things. Okay. Hello again. Thanks for those of you who were on earlier when I was testing things. I'm a little jumpy, and I hope that I think I'm just jumpy on YouTube, which is weird. But it looks, no, I'm kind of jumpy on Facebook too. What's going on? Okay, I'm just gonna go with it for now. We're gonna see what happens. Okay, so I'm not gonna waste a lot of time because we have so much to talk about tonight. So tonight we are diving headfirst into the Enneagram. So you may not have any idea what the Enneagram is. And honestly, if you don't know what it is, that's kind of the best way to experience it for the first time. A lot of people would say you can take a test. You can take a test. I really think it's the best if you learn all the information and then kind of figure out where you land. So the Enneagram is an ancient personality typing system, basically, that not only points out the good and the bad in people, it does that, but it also, the thing that makes it so different than other personality typing systems is that it truly looks at not only the things that you do over and over again, but why you do them. So it's really built on motivation. It's one of the reasons I love it. So I'm going to give you a few, I'll give you a few minutes to maybe tag some teamies. This really is relevant to anybody at any stage in their business or their life. Honestly, if you're not a business owner, it's really a personal growth tool is what it is. And the reason I think it's so valuable in our space is because I truly believe that this business I say it all the time, and every time I say it, I say that. It's cheesy, but it is a personal growth journey with a compensation plan. And so if we're talking about personal growth and we're talking about being better at being us, this is the perfect tool. Okay. Megan, I saw that question about that bag. No, but I have one of those bags that I've carried for years and years and years until one of the straps finally broke. But I mean, like years and years and years. And I still have it and I still carry it. Okay. So I'm going to give you a little bit first of all, let's introduce ourselves. If you were joining me earlier, I was doing a test. I was seeing what was going on. So anyways, thanks for hopping on and joining me earlier. But you have found yourself at Online Steps to Success. We are live every Thursday night at 8:30 Central Time. And our goal is to help you dream big with your business, work smarter, not harder, make money because that's important, and change your world and the world around you. That is always our goal. Everything that we do and teach has to do with those 4 concepts. So my name is Allison Dahlke. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. If you're a long time super fan, thanks for joining us. As always, you know that I love having you live. So Brian and I, my husband, we have been in direct sales for it was officially 12 years on December 2nd. So officially 12 years now. I've been saying 12 years for a long time. Love you. But it's official now. It's 12 years. And this is our full source of income. This is what we do. So we're passionate about. And we believe that this business can help you chase your wildest and craziest dreams. And we're kind of in the process of chasing some dreams. And so that's an exciting thing for us. And we want to help you do that. So again, I mentioned earlier, tonight's content is all about the Enneagram. And I'm so excited to dive into it with you. I would say get your people here. If they can't watch live, this is a great thing for them to watch back later. Honestly, this is a really great tool for your spouses, for any of your relationships at all. It's a really, really cool tool. I think you're going to love it and get a little bit obsessed. So I'm excited for you. It's probably going to take at least 2 weeks for us to cover this content. And I really hate that, but to do it well and to do it right, it's probably going to take that. And so that's okay. My goal is to get it done in 2 weeks. If it happens faster or if it takes longer, so be it. It'll be what it is. So I would love to know, if you give me like a little thumbs up, how many of you know about the Enneagram or think that you know where you fall on the Enneagram scale. I love a good delay. It's amazing. There's no way that none of you know about it. I'm just waiting for your little, well, a few, a handful. Okay, so some. How many of you would say I know nothing about it and I'm so excited to learn about it? Haley, you are not a 3. No, I don't think you are.
Who?
Haley's trying to tell me she's 3. No idea. Okay, cool. I'm so excited that you guys are. Brian said Haley might be a 3. I think she's a 1, but we'll see. So I will say one of the reasons we're teaching it tonight and over the next couple of weeks is it's been transformational for our marriage, for our personal growth, for our parenting, for our relationships with our family, for our leadership, all of it. So, so I'm crazy passionate about it. It's something we've been studying for a long time. I'm really excited to share with you. So before we dive in, I want you to know that I'm using several resources to kind of outline this and teach it for you tonight. One of the biggest ones, and if you want to learn more about this after tonight and you just kind of get the itch for it, the thing I'm going to recommend the most to you is a book called The Road Back to You by Ian Crone and Susan Stabile. And I think it is the best introduction to the Enneagram. You almost look at it like a resource, like a reference book, sort of. So if you're interested, I think you can get that book for roughly $12 or $14 on Amazon. I would recommend, even if you are an Audible learner, I would recommend getting it in a book form. It is much more of like you're going to want to reference it. It's not so much I'm going to read the whole thing all the way through, but more like you're going to want to use it as a reference point. So I would recommend getting the physical copy. Okay. I have several other resources for books. There's so many great resources out there, so many incredible podcasts, so many Instagram accounts, a million different things. So lots of options when it comes to resources. But if you're learning, getting started, The Road Back to You is going to be where I would point you first. I don't know, the cover's not on mine. That's how much I referenced it. Look at this. It's Ian Crone and Susan Stabile. The Road Back to You. Yes, Andrea. So I'm going to reference this a lot. A lot of what I'm going to teach in the beginning as we introduce Enneagram is straight from this book. Okay, are y'all ready? This is definitely a day that I would say you're going to want to take notes, or you're going to want to come back and take notes. It's going to feel like a lot of information. So what is the Enneagram to begin with? So I mentioned earlier, it's an ancient personality typing system that helps people understand who they are and what makes them tick. Really, as I do this intro, all of this is stuff that I sourced from The Road Back to You, just so you know, okay?
Is any of this stuff that you want me taking notes on in the comments? I'm not sure how I'm doing this.
Well, actually, do you have Google Drive on your phone? I could share this document that I'm reading from, and you could copy and paste sections of it as it's appropriate. If you want to, but you don't have to. I can also just share this document later. Yeah. Okay. Good idea, babe. Okay. So it is chock full of wisdom, basically for people who want to get out of their own way and become who they were created to be. The biggest thing about the Enneagram is it helps you see your strengths and your flaws and gives you a way out of the flaws and a way into more strength and growth. This is a quote right from the book. It says, "What we don't know about ourselves can and will hurt us, not to mention others. as long as we stay in the dark about how we see the world and the wounds and beliefs that have shaped who we are prisoners of our history. We've been teaching Enneagram at our marriage retreats and at women's retreats that we've been doing. And I'm telling you, watching people's just eyes light up with recognition of seeing not only this is very much who I am, but these are some deep woundings that I have, has really been transformational, not only for us, but for so many people. So, also from the book, it says, sooner or later, we must distinguish between what we are not and what we are. We must accept the fact that we are not what we would like to be. So the thing about Enneagram that makes a lot of people kind of like, oh, at first is it's not like other personality typing things that are really centered on like, here's the great things about you. There's a lot of mess in it. And so you're going to recognize these like bad parts of different personality types and go, oh, I don't know if I like that. And that's very normal because we are human and we are all flawed. And this is going to help you recognize those flaws. Cindy says this is going to be deep. Yes, it is. You're going to be a little bit mind blown, but I also think you're going to love. I think you're going to love it. Jennifer, you better get your pen working. Okay, so the word personality itself actually comes from the Greek word persona, which means mask. And as kids, we instinctually place a mask over parts of our authentic self to protect us from harm and kind of make our way in the world. It's something that we do instinctually. We are all designed to survive. And so that's part of how our personality is formed. Our personalities, which we and others experience as the ways we predictably think, feel, act, react, process information, and see the world, they can limit and imprison us. So the thing about Enneagram is it is not meant to put you in a box. It is very much the opposite of that. It's actually meant to show you the box that you've placed yourself in and help you see ways out of that box, really is what it kind of what it does. This is the thing that I love about it. I think the more that I have done a deep dive into Enneagram and really helped, it's done a lot of healing work in me. The thing is, like, God knows who we are and who we were made to be, and he wants to restore us. I think this is one of those restorative pieces. So I think you're going to love it. It's going to be good. Okay, so the purpose of the Enneagram is to develop self-knowledge and learn how to recognize and disidentify with the parts of our personalities that limit us so we can be reunited with our truest and best selves. The point is self-understanding and growing beyond the self-defeating dimensions of our personality, as well as improving our relationships and growing in compassion for others. My favorite thing about this personality typing is that it has given me so much compassion and empathy for other people who do not see the world the way that I do. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that we can make is believing that everybody else thinks the way we do and everybody else sees the world the way that we do. This system right here is going to show you that that is vastly not true, that we all see and react to the world in different ways, and it'll give you so much compassion for people. Okay. So really quick, we're going to dive into some things. I'm going to show you some stuff. We're going to get into the nitty gritty, but the Enneagram takes its name from the Greek words for 9, which is Ennea, and then the Greek word for drawing or figure, which is gram. So it's actually a 9-pointed geometric figure that looks like a circle, that has 9 different but interconnected personality types on it. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. This is going to be something that you're going to probably want to kind of jot down, take note of. Also, I highly recommend just Google it. You're going to find this exact image in Google Images. Why is there a giant bottle of Fanta under my desk? I don't even drink Fanta. So this is essentially the Enneagram diagram. So you're going to see around this circle, we have 9 different types. I don't like the way it's crooked. I'm sorry. So it starts at the top with the peacemaker, and then, which is the 9. And then you'll see we have the 1. And then going down, we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, goes back around up close to the 9. Now, what you see in that, you see that the way it's cut into a pie. So we call these triads. So there are 3 different triads. And each triad has basically processing type. So you'll see the 8, 9, and 1 are in the gut or the body triad. They're also going to closely identify with anger, and it processes through each one of these in a different way. So you'll see when we're going to talk about 8, 9, and 1 tonight. It's where we're going to start. And they all kind of have anger issues, but they're all expressed in different ways. But they are very much these are the people that will say, like, I just have a gut feeling. Like, I just know something. Like, it feels right. They're also desperately need to process things through their body, meaning it's very important for 8, 9. It's important for all of us to be active, but it's very important for 8, 9s, and 1s to be physically active, because it's part of the way they process emotion and even intellectual things, everything. So down below that, you'll see I'm looking at it backwards in this. The 2s, 3s, and 4s are in the heart triad or the feeling triad. So these are the people that are going to be very connected to their emotions, to their feelings. These 3 types have lots of issues typically with shame. And you'll see that some of their greatest fears and greatest desires have to do with avoiding shame. Okay, the last triad is the head triad. Oh, and so back here to the feeling or to the heart processors, they really do process things through their emotions. So where an 8, 9, or 1, they might need to go out for a run or go do yoga to process. A 2, 3, or 4 are going to process things through their emotions, whether that's crying or talking things out or something like that. They're very much heart processors. Then we have our 5, 6, and 7s, and they are our head processors. They're very cerebral. They're big thinkers, and they're one of the things that you'll see them trying to always process and avoid is fear. And you'll see as we go through each type that it's different for each one of them, how they process fear or how they avoid it. It's drastically different between the 7 and the 6, how they try to avoid fear or deal with their fear. But that's one of those underlying emotions that they have. Now, you can seriously, and I know this is backwards on YouTube. You just need to Google Enneagram and then look at images, and it's going to show you that image almost exactly. Okay. So now here's something I want to note. So I was talking about anger and shame, and
7s are also the fun ones.
I'm going to shoot you. I seriously.
We are the really
go
fun
away.
type.
I'm so mad at you right now.
We're the ones that like excitement.
Yeah, my heart.
And adventure. That's a 7.
Yeah, get away from me. Can you tell he's a 7? Oh my God. There was nothing good about that. Oh, okay, Jennifer, I'm glad you said what you just said. I feel like I'm all of the above. So here's something that's important to note. You are going to identify in some part or some form with every single type, but you are going to very strongly identify with one normally. So we're going to talk about that as it goes through. The whole circle itself is essentially the whole person. So you're going to hear me talk about wounded messaging. You're going to hear me talk about superpowers. You're going to hear me talk, and not real superpowers, but you're going to hear me talk about lost childhood messages. We all had all of the lost childhood messages. Like, we all need to hear all of the things from every Enneagram type, but it's just that you're going to know one of them is just going to resonate so much more clearly with you. Okay. So you're also, one of the other things we're going to look at is wings. So these are the numbers. A wing is going to be the number on either side of your number. You're going to very, very strongly identify with one number. Then around your number, I'll show you in just a second, you may lean toward one of those 2 numbers and pick up some of its characteristic energy and traits. So for example, it's really not funny. I'm still recovering. So I identify as a 1. So if I'm looking at this, my wing could possibly either be a 2 or a 9. I will tell you my wing is a very strong 9 wing. But when you're looking at what number, right, to not, as we really learn about it, I really just want you to focus on which one you most closely identify with. Again, you are going to find traits that you recognize in every single one of them, but we're really looking for which is the one that really feels like this is reading my diary. Okay. My heart is still pounding. Okay. So the other thing we'll look at as we dive into this, I told you this is already a lot of information, is stress and security, or growth, stress and growth. So if you're not really healthy right now, you may actually mistype yourself as the type that you go to in stress. So I'm actually going to read you this part from the book because it's a really great explanation. Am I going to read it to you? Was I planning on reading it to you? I don't know. No, I'm not going to read it to you. Basically, as we go through, you'll understand a little bit more that each number points to a number in stress and points to a number in growth, meaning that as a 1, when I am not healthy or when I am under a lot of stress, I go to the worst parts of 4. 4s are the romantics. They're really cool people. I call them the queens. You'll understand why in a little bit. But the worst parts of 4 are incredibly moody, self-centered, highly emotional. So when I'm unhealthy, I kind of take on the worst characteristics of a 4. When I am healthy, I get to be more spontaneous. So when I'm healthy, I actually take on the best characteristics of a 7. I know this feels like I'm talking like a foreign language to you. You're going to understand more as we dive into it. But 7s are the enthusiasts. They're spontaneous, fun. They're more laid back. They're less high strung and like overly orderly, like 1s can be. So I get a little bit more relaxed, if that makes sense. So we'll talk about that as we go through. So all of the types also have a deadly sin, and we'll talk about that as we go through. So why does this really matter for your business? It matters because 1, it helps you identify the way that you see the world, the way you react to it, and gives you tools for growth forward. And then it also is going to help you have so much more compassion for your team. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you. Okay. How to figure out your type. So this is really important. Your number is not determined by what you do so much as why you do it. Again, this goes back to motivation. So I want you to listen really carefully as we dive into the underlying motivation that drives the traits and behaviors of each number to see if it rings true for you. So you're looking at the why, not necessarily the what. Because remember, if you're under stress, you could be acting as a different number to cope. Okay? So, hey, Shelly. All right. So, okay, here's what I want to read you real fast. So page 22. Totally the opposite of a tarot card reading, Delinda. Totally the opposite. Okay. So this is how I want you to think about this as you're listening and we go through and you look at finding your type. So it's going to help you to identify your type as you listen to me talk through this. If you will think back to what you were like at age 20 rather than who you are now. Even though your personality type never changes, it's never more florid or clear than in early adulthood. When, as James Hollis says, you haven't lived long enough to figure out that you are the only person who is consistently present in every scene of that long-running drama we call our life. In other words, the source of most of your problems is you. It's also important to think more about the way you act, think, and feel at home. So you don't want to think about the way that you act, think, and feel in stressful situations, but more the way you act, think, and feel at home, and also more the way that you act naturally reacted to the world around the age of 20. So if you were still living with your parents when you were 20, this doesn't count. Think about more the first time you were out on your own, living on your own, early adulthood. That's what you want to think about, okay? Here's the bottom of all of this, and this is my favorite part of this. Anne Lamott says that basically everyone is screwed up, broken, clingy, and scared. And that is 100% true. And the thing that I love about this is it helps us self-identify that everybody's broken. And the only way forward is for us to become more self-aware. But it also says, so there's no sense wanting to be differently screwed up than you already are. I can see you.
I'm not trying to see you this time. You're still recovering.
Great God.
Are you going to go through this, or are you going to go through the types?
No, I'm going to go through.
You're not going to read oh, you are going to read it?
But I'm going to go 8, 9, 1.
Okay, so
just like we teach it now.
Before you do it, though, remind them. You'll have to remind them every night, but remind them the mindset of. That's
what I just said. I just said that.
Oh, well, there was a 10-second delay on the video. I didn't know if you were going to say it. When I walked in, I missed like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I talked about 21 self.
20 to 25.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just said that.
Well, that's all I have for the night, guys. So my job here is done.
Okay. All right. So we're going to start with 8. So we're going to start in that top triad, which these are our body and our gut processors. We're starting up at the top. Well, we're not starting at the very top, but we're going to start right here with 8, and then we go 8, 9, 1. And then next week we'll go 2, 3, 4, and maybe we'll be able to do 5, 6, and 7 next week too, because I won't have to intro as much. So we're going to start with 8, 9, and 1. So these are our body and our gut processors. So here's what I would recommend doing. Have a page and just write 8. Okay, so the 8 is often known as the challenger. I was making sure I got all my notes. So they are the powerful and dominating type. They are self-confident, strong and assertive, productive, resourceful, and decisive. They have this very strong sense of responsibility to protect their herd. So if you are in the inner circle of an 8, they are incredibly loyal and protective. They have a very passionate talk style. They can be proud and domineering when they're not as healthy as they need to be. They feel that they've got to control their environment, and we're going to talk about why in just a minute. They can be confrontational and intimidating. They have the most energy of all the types, so you will oftentimes see 8s as ultra marathon. Brian and I have an 8 friend who just ran 100-hour race. The goal was 24 hours. 24 hours. That's different than 100. Okay, I got it. I went real extreme. 24-hour race. He ran. So the goal is to run for 24 hours. He made it 17 and was so ticked at himself. 17 hours. Like 8s have a lot of energy. They have. Then it says big lustful energy. Yes, they're action takers. They take direct action. They respect people who stand up and speak their mind. They don't really have a lot of space for people who can't make up their mind or won't say what they think. They face conflict head on. They are not afraid of conflict at all. They see vulnerability as weakness. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. They think that they've got to be strong and powerful to hide their own vulnerability. They will often seek revenge. They will cut off people who betray them. Like if you betray them, they don't have space for you in their herd anymore. They avoid looking back at their own hurtful behaviors towards others. Like they don't want to recognize, like they don't want to, be honest with, I really hurt somebody there. They may have problems with allowing themselves to be close to others. That goes back to that vulnerability thing. And at their best, healthy 8s are self-mastering. They use their strength to improve others' lives, becoming heroic, monogamous, and sometimes historically great. So I want to show you something on here. I'm going to talk about where they go in stress and in growth. And it's not going to make a lot of sense yet, but it will later. So an 8 actually goes to 5 in stress. So you'll learn later that a 5 is an observer, and oftentimes the worst parts of 5, if they're unhealthy, is that they take in information but never act on it. So under stress, an 8 will become less decisive and won't take as much action. Okay, they go to 2 in growth. So they go over here to 2 in growth, and the helper is exactly what it sounds like, always willing to help. The best parts of the helper, and they become, so when I say they go to that in growth, they get the best parts of being a helper. They're incredibly generous of their time and their energy and their resources. They want to give for the betterment of others. So that's kind of where they go in growth. Okay. Here's the big things you need to know about 8s. Their biggest fear is that they don't want to be harmed or controlled by others. That's their basic fear. So this is the important pieces here, because it's not about what they do, it's about why. So this is the why. Their basic fear is that they do not want to be harmed or controlled by others. Their basic desire is to protect themselves and the people in their close-knit little group, okay? When they're unhealthy, they can deteriorate into constant fighting. They will just seek to have their way. An unhealthy 8 would be somebody who is always trying to get the last word in, always trying to be right. They can be very stubborn, okay? Their wounded childhood message. So we're going to talk about this. Everybody has a wounded childhood message, but their wounded childhood message is that it's not okay to be vulnerable or to trust anyone. Remember, because they don't want to be harmed or controlled by others. And if they trust somebody or are vulnerable to somebody, that can hurt them, right? The thing that they need to know is that they will not be betrayed. So someone close to an 8 needs to be very open and honest about saying, I'm never going to leave, or I'm not going to, I'm not going to betray you. They care very much about trust. Their passion or their deadly sin is lust. So I'll just explain. It can come in the manifestation of excess and intensity in every area of their life. So that's how their deadly sin can kind of take over when they're in unhealth. Okay. So kind of keep track as you're going through about where you're tracking. Now, remember, you may say, like, I really, really relate with this. Well, you might, but you also have to think about, am I in a healthy place? Am I not a healthy place? I want you to be thinking about how you were in your 20s. Remember, how are you naturally reacting to the world when you were first in your early adulthood? That's going to help you kind of determine a little bit more and help you type yourself better. So those are 8s. Okay. Their superpower, this is the last thing I want to say about an 8. Superpower for an 8 is that they take charge and know how to mobilize others to get things done. They make great leaders, and they will always champion those who cannot fight for themselves. 8s are very justice-oriented, very justice-oriented. It's incredibly important to them. So, like, they want things to be done right, and they want justice to be served. That makes sense? Okay. Carrie says, I remember very little of my childhood. Carrie, so I don't know how much you know about this, but that can often be the result of trauma. And there are certain types that intentionally block, actually, the type of 9s. I just learned this the other day. 9s are known for having amnesia because, and we're going to talk about 9s. 9s are the peacemakers. That's what they're called. They do not want to disrupt peace. And so they will often block out things from their childhood that were unpeaceful to not have to deal with them. It's very interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the peacemaker, the 9. So we're still in this body and gut processing. They are body processors. They can become highly angry, and they have these gut instincts about things. So this is the peacemaker, type 9. They're very easygoing and self-effacing. They are accepting, trusting, and stable. They are able to see and understand all sides of a situation. They're good-natured, kind-hearted, easygoing, and supportive. They can also be too willing to go along with others just to keep the peace. So sometimes they won't step up and say what they actually want because they don't want to cause fragmentation, which we'll talk a little bit about in a minute. They want everything to be without conflict. They like life to be comfortable and familiar. Really healthy 9s function well in established routine. They can thrive in routine. They like it, and it's important to them. They're very attentive to others. They're also the most empathetic type because they're able to see all sides of a situation. They are steadfast but adaptable, which I've always found funny. So we're on number 9. This is the peacemaker. They can tend to be complacent and minimize anything upsetting. So, for instance, let's say like something tragic happens and a 9 does not really respond the way that you would expect somebody to, because they have a tendency to minimize things to avoid conflict. So if it hurts or if it's painful, they may not make a big deal about it outwardly because they're trying to stuff it. And 9s are stuffers. Their anger happens in the form of resentment. So they will put it deep down inside them and let it basically explode over, is what happens with 9s. They may have problems with passivity and stubbornness. They have difficulty saying no because they think it will cause conflict. Remember, they're just trying to avoid conflict. They can oftentimes have difficulty setting priorities. They think that they've got to keep the peace to be loved. A thought process for a 9 would be, I've got to go along to get along. I'm just going to go with the flow, go with everybody else so I get along with everybody. They will often merge with others to fit in and create harmony. They resist being affected by life. Like you could hear a 9 say nothing really bothers them. Now it's not true, but what it is them masking pain, fear, anger, resentment. They mask it because they don't want conflict even within themselves. Okay. They are able to contain anger in their bodies for a long period of time, like a long years sometimes. And occasionally that anger will boil over and explode. You would never describe a 9 as they're not a confrontational and they don't get angry very often. But when they do, they are angry. And it is an accumulation of anger that they have held on to for a long time. At their best, healthy 9s are indomitable and all embracing. They are able to bring people together and heal conflict. So a 9 goes to 6 in stress. So a 9 is going to go to 6 in stress, which is a loyalist. 6s are also the worst case scenario thinkers. So the worst part of a 6 is that they are scared to death of everything. Sort of. That's dramatic. I'll get there in a minute. But they will think about the worst case scenario of any situation, and they will become riddled with anxiety over it. That's the worst part of 6 when they're unhealthy. And so when 9s are not healthy, they go to 6. Everything becomes worst case scenario, and there's high anxiety. Okay. In health, 9s go to 3. So 3s are the performers. They're often called the achievers. The best parts of 3s is that they are highly successful. They take action. This is also called the achiever. So they're high achievers. So when 9s are healthy and functioning, they actually act on the things that they know to be true and right. Okay. Okay. So that is the kind of basis of the 9. Here's the basic fear of a 9. The basic fear is that they will lose connection with people, that there will be fragmentation. So they want to keep the peace because they don't want to mess something up. It's very important for them to be connected to people. And so they don't want conflict to arise. So they'll try to avoid it. Their basic desire is, you guessed it, to be at peace. They can deteriorate into stubborn neglectfulness. So they just won't deal with things. So instead of acting, they'll just not act. They'll just let things pile up and they can become very neglectful. Their wounded message is that it's not okay to assert yourself. So this is like a wounded childhood message that they somehow grabbed onto to think it's not okay for me to put myself out there. Their lost childhood message, this is the thing they need to hear. So if you are in a relationship with a 9, or if you are a 9, this will resonate with you, is that your presence matters. And if you're in a relationship with a 9, you need to say to them, your presence matters. That's the thing they need to hear. Their gift is peace, obviously, and their passion, their deadly sin, is sloth. So they can become incredibly lazy and unproductive when they're in unhealth. Their superpower is that they can reconcile seemingly irreconcilable points of view. They have a way of seeing everything and bringing people together when they're healthy. It's really, really cool. Leanne, it's 100% normal to cry when hearing this. Yes, 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 yes. Happens every time we teach it. Okay, so that is the peacemaker. By the way, my wing is peacemaker. I love my wing, but it is hard to live as a 1 with a 9 wing. And you'll understand a little bit more in just a minute when you understand the 1. So we're going to go to 1s now. And we are still in that top triad where these are body, gut, anger processors. Okay. So number 1 is often called the perfectionist. Now, the Enneagram is an ancient, it's been around for hundreds of years. It was initially taught orally. So like it was just passed on through stories. So you'll often hear names interchange. Some people will say perfectionist. Some people will say reformer. We'll get to other ones and there's different types. You gonna sit with me?
Yeah, I don't want to get in.
I'm not going to move because I got a whole thing happening. Okay. So the perfectionist. Here's what you need to know about 1s. They are the principled, idealistic type. They're very ethical and conscientious. They have a strong sense of right and wrong. They're always trying to improve things. That's kind of one of those. That's why sometimes 1s are called the reformer. They believe they can make anything better. They want things to be better. They're often well organized and orderly. They are concerned with details. They try to maintain high standards and strive for excellence. They value and are attracted to goodness. They envision making the world a better place. They want to actualize their potential and help others actualize theirs too. Like 1s want everybody to be their best self. I mean, I want you to be your best self, even if you don't want to be your best self, right? They're often teachers and crusaders. They believe that they gain love and self-regard by being responsible, conscientious, and by doing things correctly. Do you see this theme of like there's good and bad, things are right or wrong? They have a very strong, the strongest internal critic of all of the types that's incredibly abusive to them. And their internal critic sounds like themselves. So they have this loop of criticism that rolls through their mind that causes doubt and fear and all sorts of things that never sort of leaves. They are often angry at themselves for not being good enough. They can be very defensive toward anyone or anything that points out or exposes a possible defect, unfairness, irresponsibility, or ignoring standards. So like if a 1 made a mistake when it came to standards or right and wrong, or they were irresponsible and you brought it up to them, they would become incredibly defensive about it. They don't want to be wrong. And it's not that they don't want to be wrong. It's that they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to be bad. They often hold others to unspoken standards. So they have standards for other people that they hold them to that the other people don't know about. They can be very aggressive and they can be very passive aggressive. Take your pick. We'll be both or either. At their best, healthy 1s are wise, discerning, realistic, and noble, as well as morally heroic. So 1s go to 4 in stress. So here we are, 1. So in stress, I go to 4. Now, I love 4s. Love them. I can't wait to tell you about them. They're amazing. But when they're not healthy, they're moody, self-centered, anxious, all the things. Yeah, like, yes. So when I'm unhealthy, I get the worst parts of 4 and I start acting like that. But when I'm healthy, I go to 7, which is the enthusiast.
Yay.
Fun times. And the enthusiasts are more, the best part of an enthusiast, also sometimes called the adventurer, is they're more spontaneous. They're more adventurous. They're more laid back. They're not as overly critical and like by the book and orderly as a 1 typically is. Okay.
Hey, real quick, there's been a few different people that are like, wait, maybe I'm this type, or maybe I was the last type you did.
Yeah.
And I know you talked about it at the beginning, but everybody is every type to a point.
Yeah.
We all have characteristics of all of these things. And then like she said earlier too, you almost have to go back to that 20 to 25-year-old self where you weren't as conditioned by the world to be how you are now. Once you start having kids and get married, your life has to adapt to all of these other people's lives. So you do start to take on a lot more types just to get through everyday life. You have different bosses, you have all of these things that make you adapt. So the best thing to do, listen while we're doing all of this, but then Allie's going to upload these sheets.
Oh, am I?
Are you not going to?
I don't have them in PDF form.
Can you not just take screenshots?
No, I can make something.
Okay.
Well, no promise this one.
Well, but honestly, the best thing to do would be Google Enneagram
or this
type
book.
checklist,
I
or
mean,
just get this book.
yes.
It's all in this book. And to go through and really check what ones you are or what ones you think you are. Every time we train on this, we'll go through and someone's like, oh, yep, that's me. And then 2 or 3 types later, they're like, oh, no, wait, this is me. And then 2 or 3 types later, oh, no, this is me. And so the important thing to remember, like she said, you're a type. You have a wing that's always next to your type. So I'm a 7 with an 8 wing. She's a 1 with a 9 wing because it, goes the other way. And what you go to in health and unhealth are different things. Sorry. So you can identify with multiple types. The important thing is just to kind of listen and then go through. The book's the best way, but go through and just see what one you identify with the most and then kind of start there.
Julia, it's called The Road Back to You. Okay, back to Perfectionists.
By Ian Morgan Cron.
Sorry, and Susan Stiville. We were talking about me. Am I doing anything? Just kidding.
Sorry.
Okay, so back to ones. The basic fear, you are really all up in my space right now.
No. I was moving toward you, but I wasn't moving over.
Okay, so the basic fear of a 1, did you see me get real perfectionist right then? That's what I was doing. Is their basic fear is being bad, corrupt, evil, or defective. Their basic desire is to have integrity. They can deteriorate into critical perfectionism. Like, nobody has standards for that. Like, you can't live up to it. They can't live up to it. Their wounded message is that it's not okay to make mistakes. The lost childhood message, the thing they need to hear, is that you are good. And so that's one of those things. I think oftentimes it's that lost childhood message that really hits home for you. If I say it and you're like, I need to hear that, that often has a lot to do with where you kind of find yourself. Their passion and their deadly sin is anger. And it comes in the form of resentment sometimes.
Yelling.
They are we can be. Ones, typically, they've got some yelling in them. I'm just going to say. Okay. Stop it.
Sorry.
Now, one superpower is that they are constantly trying to make things better. So that's the good thing about ones. So, I have 10 minutes. Should I try to keep going a little bit?
Because
once you start rolling, you kind of start rolling.
I don't think so. I wouldn't get into it. I would just end it early and let them go back and watch. They're going to want to go back and, multiple people said I need to watch the replay.
I hate spanning it out so long, though.
I know, but I want to hit on something really quick. And if you believe in these things, it's fine. But I have seen multiple people talk about astrology and tarot cards and things like that. We don't believe this is that at all. And our personal beliefs and our spiritual beliefs are that a lot of that stuff, there's a lot of deep-seated evil in a lot of that stuff. And so, again, if it's your thing, it's your thing. It's just not. I actually had someone text me individually, separately, and said, "Oh, what's your sign?" And it just got all over me. I was like, "Oh, I don't even want to tell people what my birthday is or what my sign is." And then I saw someone asking about someone's birthday or something. And it's fine. Again, I'm just telling you, we don't believe there's any direct correlation to any of this with any of that occult type stuff. If you look up occult, UCCULT or OCCULT, we just don't believe that this is anything to do with that. Just to be clear, if you're not familiar with this stuff, but you've seen people posting some of that stuff, this isn't that. We don't believe that at all.
Yeah, I was going to read this to them, the stress and security of each one, but it doesn't matter. We hit on it.
Yeah.
I know it.
Again, the most important thing when doing this, so when we usually do this, it usually takes a few hours, which is why Allie's spread it out over 3 weeks. And I know it's bugging you, but I do think you should spread it out over 3 weeks.
Oh, it's really bugging me.
I think this will give people time to get the book or to download some more resources that kind of give them a better idea. We will say this, and I don't know if she said this at the beginning, it's really dangerous to get online and take a free Enneagram test. So Enneagram's been around for a really, really long time. And the Enneagram itself is not copyrighted because it's been around for so long. However, there are a lot of different people that have a lot of different ideas on how it should be taught and the verbiage and all of these things that have copyrighted pieces. So there are a ton of resources out there from different authors and different beliefs and all of these things. And if you get on and take a free test, a lot of times the free tests are just kind of a way for them to capture your information and then start to market you based on, their stuff. We have not yet personally found a free test that does a very adequate job of typing you. A lot of the tests will end up showing they're very basic questions. And sometimes I will type differently on different tests, and I know very clearly what my type is. And so just be careful when you go out and take the test. It might not type you properly. There are some paid versions.
Yeah, actually, Ian Crone has a paid version. I think it's $14. And if you were going to take one and you really wanted to take a test, I would say that's the one to do. But before that, I would say buy the book for $14 or whatever it is, $12.
There's not technically a test in the book.
There's not, because that's not how you're supposed to. Like, it's really hard for a test to get to the motivation of why you do what you do.
Yeah.
And that's the key to all of it.
And do remember, if you do take a test, put yourself in that. I say 2 or 3 years removed from your parents' influence, but not yet under the influence of all the pressures of the world, career, marriage, kids, all of those things. Because I was a stubborn as heck, adventurous, my way or the highway kind of young 20-year-old. I've adapted a lot because I married a really strong personality that made me. But if I took the test now and answered it with today's answers, I might test differently than what I truly am.
So that's why, so Krista said, so you recommend trying to figure out on your own what your type is. That's why it's important to sit and listen to each type and hear about their basic fears, hear about their basic desires, hear about the thing that they need to hear, like that message that they need to hear, because that will help you resonate with, oh, is that where I need to go? The other thing I love about this book, The Road Back to You, is that it actually gives you spiritual transformation, all biblically based on what your type is. So it'll tell you, for nines, how they become healthier as 9. Like if they're a mediocre 9, how to become a healthier version of themselves. So I want to say something that Diana just said, and this is what we hear a lot.
8 wing 7 2.
Yeah, she said I'm an 8 wing 7 and a 2.
So if you see a number with the W and another number, it means the first number is their most dominant, the second number is their wing, and then she added another number.
She added 2, but this is why this is why she probably tested also as a 2, because if she truly is an 8, then in health she goes to 2.
Yeah.
So that's where you'll see, oftentimes, if you're really healthy, you're going to see a lot of the traits of that other area, that other personality type, where you go in security and where you go in growth. And then if you're unhealthy, you're going to see those traits of where you go in stress come up as a different type. So that has a lot to do with it too. So really, Diana probably is an 8 with a 7 wing. And she manifested that, some of that 2 came up because when she's healthy as an 8, she has some of those the best traits of a 2. Okay.
Someone said, how does this help you with your business?
So I covered all of that in the beginning, extensively. The biggest way that it helps with your business is because it helps you. First of all, the biggest thing it does is it shows you that the way that you see the world and the way that you react to the world is not the way that everybody else does. And that's the biggest and most transformational part of it, is it gives you compassion and empathy for other people. So like the customer that's driving you crazy, the team member that's driving you bonkers, the person who can't make up their mind if they're going to join or not, it really helps you to identify oh, they don't see the world like I do. They look at things differently. And it gives you compassion and empathy. The other thing is, it gives you a way forward into constant, continual personal growth. And the thing that I love about it too is it really starts to show you when you're stepping into unhealth. And when you're unhealthy, you can't be a good leader. You can't be a good business owner. It's 100 times harder for you to effectively make all this happen. And the thing that I've seen over the past 12 years happen over and over again is the people that get stuck in their business are the people that are getting stuck personally. It often isn't because they don't have the skills or the ability to move their business forward. It's because they're not taking the steps towards personal growth and healing to make them into the person that they were actually created to be, to do this work and be the leader that they were called to be. Does that make sense?
Well, and also we're in a very relation-driven business.
Yes.
So between your customers, your consultant base, your new recruits, your team members, upline, downline, all of the different verbiages in the businesses that we're in, it helps so much. You knowing yourself, you knowing when you go to growth and when you go, when you're slipping into unhealth. And it also helps the people around you. I think that the empathy that this can give you for the people around you, whether it be, because we're all emotional individuals, we're all emotionally centered in some way or another. Your family and things that aren't even involved in your business are often the obstacles in keeping you from being everything you need to be in your business. True. And so by being fully understanding of yourself and how you react to things, and then also being able to type some of the people around you, like we've got our kids typed, we've got most of our family typed, and it just gives us a lot better understanding of why people do the things they do. There's someone in every one of your lives that you're like, why the heck are they like that? Why don't they understand this? Or why don't they do things this way? This has given us insight into why all the people around us do all the things that they do. So if nothing else, it helps you understand the people around you better. And that helps us so much because I think half of our emotional margin is spent asking and questioning why so many other people do things the way they do. And this will give you a better understanding of that.
To my friend who just sent me a text, I need you to know that your needs are not a problem, and I love you. She sent me the message I need to hear, and then I have to send it back to her. I love you a lot. I wanted to give you, I'm not going to yet. I have so many other resources for you that I don't want to overload you. I'm going to wait.
And I think you'll have the next 2 weeks, you'll have more time because you won't have to do the full intro like you did this time either. So.
Right. So I would definitely say if you're going to watch the next 2 weeks, I actually think next week we'll be able to do the other 6 types. So just make sure that you watch this one, the beginning of this one, because I'm not going to go back and do the intro part of it again. And that part's pretty foundational to understanding what we're talking about. So if you want your team to check it out, if you want, other people that you know to check it out, make sure that they watch this so that they have the basic foundation of understanding as we move forward with the other 6 types next week. Cool? Okay, who's totally intrigued and wants to know more? I'm not going to continue. I just want to know if you're digging it, or if you're and also I really hate just leaving 3. I'm going to do it, but it's a lot of information, I know. And it's kind of you're still I don't know where I fit, or I don't know, because I maybe have not even read about you yet. So
why don't you knock it out 3 nights in a row?
Well, we have date night tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's true.
I could just do it in the morning though. Maybe.
You could. Because realistically, it's almost better if it's recorded to where they can pause it. Right. Pause, Maybe knock out the next 3 types in the morning.
I think I could do 6 in an hour.
Thursday, we can come back and try to wrap it all together. By then, most of them would have gotten the book if they ordered it.
True story.
Most of them could have even uploaded what you need to. What do y'all think about that? Should she record the other 6 types in the morning?
Yeah, I'm totally willing to do that. I'm doing Christmas tomorrow. I'm decorating for Christmas tomorrow, but I would totally do that. Get on and do the last 6 types so that you kind of have the full income. And I know if you can't watch live, it's fine, but that way it would be available and you'd have all the information at one time, and then you can get to it when you get to it in process. Yes?
It's really frozen. Someone said message me if you do it tomorrow. You'll get notified if you're on online steps.
Yeah, if you have your notifications.
You can't message everybody, but okay. Well, let's do
Okay.
that. That
I'll
way
do
you
it in the
can
morning.
watch it in your own time this week. And that way next Thursday, she can come in and give kind of a rounding out of the entire thing and maybe some tips and tricks.
I know. Shelby says, I don't think I can wait another week. I know. It's like, and especially if I didn't talk about you tonight, you're like, okay, great. Thanks for talking about these other people.
Well, what's funny, I'll end on this. So 7s are the most like, let's do it right now, the most like adventurous. The joke about 7s is that when they're on vacation, they can't even enjoy it because they're already planning the next vacation.
Yeah.
We're just always looking for that next adventure. And typically when you teach this, you start at 8 and go all the way around, and 7s get hit at the end. So we went to this conference on it, and it's 4 hours later, they're talking about 7s. So most of the 7s in the room are like, when are they going to get to me? When are they going to get to me? And then by the time they finally did, we all like exploded all over everybody.
With joyous excitement about
like,
themselves.
We're there. But
that's true.
Yeah. So I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't want her to wait 2 more weeks to get to 7. 7's the best
Hey,
time.
I am not.
They're all great.
I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to say what time. I tried to leave my morning open to meet with a friend who I've been trying to have coffee with, and so I would normally just say I'll do it at 9 or 10, but I don't know when she's going to be able to meet, so I'm not going to commit to anything. So I'm just going to be live when I'm live. And I'm sorry, and I don't ever do that. But
so Jennifer, you can't be an 8 and a 1. I don't want to crush your soul, but you might be a 7, and in health or in unhealth, you go to a 1.
Yes.
But you can be a 7 with an 8 wing that goes to a 1.
Yeah. So he is a 7, very obviously. But when he's unhealthy or when he's under stress, he gets this like critical perfectionist, like everything has to be done the right way. Like, the worst part of 1.
Like I'll walk in and my kids are eating Cheerios in the living room. And even though we have a rule that we're not supposed to eat in the living room, it's a pretty loose rule. And I'll just be like, what are you guys doing? We don't eat in the living room. You know that, right? And I'll make them like look at me and say, yes, Dad, we know we're not supposed to eat in the living room. When 2 nights before I probably let them because we were all having fun and whatever. So I just expect perfection out of people. When I'm unhealthy and when I'm stressed, I expect perfection out of all the people around me. And it's not good for anybody.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to go live sometime tomorrow, and we're going to do the next 6 types. It's going to be fun.
It'll probably be between 9:30 and 10:30 if I had to guess.
Yeah, probably, unless I go have coffee.
Central time.
Yeah. My goal is going to be before noon Central time.
But honestly, like we said, the best way to probably watch this anyway, unless you just really want to watch it live and ask questions live, is to watch it where you can pause it, take notes, pause it. So if you miss it, it'll still be great.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. I guess I'll see you tomorrow. And for those of you, Heather, of course, I'm going to text you.
You guys are welcome. I believe that was my idea. You're welcome. She'll do it.
Yeah, that was your idea.
Yeah.
Because I was over here itching, like wanting to get all of it out.
I just want you to get to 7.
I know. Okay, so live tomorrow at some point, and I'll talk to you then.
See you guys.